How you doing, everybody? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. I'm here with Mitch Brietweiser and Nick Amendolare. Did I say your name correctly?
Amendolare.
Amendolare. I completely butchered it. There you go. Nice way to start.
Amendolare. You
Nice
got
way
to
to start.
throw in the hand.
Yeah, I know. I'm Italian too. You want to know how Italian I am? I had a pizzeria for 5 years.
What's your last name?
Oh, I don't want to say it live. I'll send it to you.
I understand.
I'll send it to you. My wife is like terrified. She thinks people are gonna like storm my house when they find my comic book collection.
That very well may be true. We got a sneak peek of it in the green room. So
Yeah. Well, that's why God invented pit bulls, my friend.
there you go.
Let's just say I moved out away from the 5 boroughs, and now I have the ability to defend myself.
Wow.
You do not mess with John's long boxes.
Yeah. I've been reading a little too many Punisher comic books.
There you go.
Got a little vigilante working for you.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, for those of you who may not know, I'm speaking with Mitch and Nick. They're from Allegiance Arts. That is their own comic book studio, and they do wonderful comics. And I'm not just blowing smoke. This Norris saga is one of the greatest comics. I thought it was awesome. I did all my homework. I read up on all of my comics that you guys put out. Red Rooster. I said it. Well, let's start at the beginning. I got the Saints. I just got it because I saw the name Mike Barron was associated with it. I'm a big Mike Barron fanboy, so I got anything with Mike Barron, and he was on last week, and I was reading that comic. I'm like, this comic is so well written. That's of course it was well drawn too. It was amazingly drawn, but a lot of these Kickstarter crowdfunded comics, the problem is that the people are artists and they're not really writers. And that one I was blown away, and I did a showcase almost immediately, and somehow you guys saw my showcase. I had like no subscribers or nothing, and you guys just happened to see it, and you liked what I said about it. And then you started talking about me, and I watched your video, and I invited you right away. I appreciate that, so thank you very much.
Well,
we're grateful.
Very grateful and very happy to be on your live stream with you, John. And yeah, we caught wind of your video like kind of randomly as we were preparing for the Saints launch, and I think it'd been up for several months. And I saw it, immediately sent it to the team, and we really appreciated your honest, like just your expert opinion on comic books. For one, like we knew this review was coming from someone who had read a lot of material. And who was well informed on the comic book medium, and frankly, as you had a very kind of fresh take on the book, as in raw, not in a bad way. It was just very, here's my feelings about this book, and it was very honest and straightforward, and that's the kind of feedback that we love, because it's the kind of feedback we can count on, like someone who's very qualified and very honest, when I sent it to the team, I was like, just listen to the first minute or two, because when you first start the review, this is a book you did not like.
Yeah, it started off bad.
Yeah, it did not start off well, which in my mind, I'm like, I think we're going to win this guy over. I'm just going to give him a couple more minutes and see where this goes. But I think you're liking this book for all the right, or not liking this book for all the right reasons. And that was one of the first things.
Yeah, you tricked me. You totally tricked me.
Well, it's not trick, but I remember listening and I went, oh, this guy got it. You're not supposed to like Jean-Marc at first.
No, he was a jerk.
Well, that's the whole point is, well, we're not going to give it a lot away, but he goes from the arc is, geez, Mitch, where do I begin? He goes from being this lamentable figure, this very selfish guy.
Yeah, I instantly didn't like him.
In the end of season 1, Mitch and I took over the writing, and we decided that we wanted this story to go in a certain way. So we took it in a certain way. And it's nothing against Mike, but that's just what happened.
Yeah.
And one of the things we discussed, other than the location and the intricacies of this world, which we'll get into, I'm sure, later, was, well, how's this guy going to change? Does he have to change? And we both agreed he should. So he goes from being this very selfish individual to actually, toward the end,
Maybe.
I wouldn't say altruistic, but he becomes a hero.
Yes, it's this transformation. It's rubber banding is what I like to call it. Like, if you
Yes.
want to really make a hero, you have to start from some pretty hard stuff. So he's, for those that don't know and are just catching up on the book The Saints, it stars this character we created called Jean-Marc Lapointe, who is a scientist, but he's also a playboy, a renegade archaeologist. He's an archaeologist by trade, but a flamboyant glory hound, self-promoter, playboy type guy, a jerk, and also a jerk, and also a social media star.
Oh, that's what got me. He was like
Yes.
taking selfies and Instagram. I was like, I hate this guy.
Yeah, exactly. He was meant to be sort of like Indiana Jones meets Jake Paul, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like everything you kind of like about Indy, but everything you really don't like about, like, social media glory hounds and stuff, but within that is an actual hardcore scientist who's on the cusp of the discovery of his lifetime, and this discovery would bring him fame and glory beyond his wildest imaginations, but it would also rewrite history as humanity knows it.
Yes.
And, in doing this, he pisses off the people who would like to keep this, or the group, the organization that would very much like to keep this a secret, at least for now. And this is the setup to the first book, which is available on the Indiegogo that John's.
And I give it one of my highest recommendations. I mean, you got. I'm not gonna lie. The first 3 pages, I was like, I just wasted my money. This is. I hate this guy. Like, I thought the name was pretentious. Like, you did everything perfect, and then I was like, oh, wait a minute. I think I get where you're going, but the premise was so interesting. Even though I didn't like the character, I was drawn in, and then by the end, the character won me over. So you said you did that on purpose. It was like a roller coaster ride of like. I thought that was like a funny thing. In college, I tried to write a story. I said, I'm going to make the most unlikable character, but by the end, you're going to like him. Yeah. And I couldn't do it. So I failed, but I kind of understood what you were doing. Like, yeah. And I don't want to give anything away because I put the link in the conversation. You can go to get the Saints 2 on Indiegogo, and I give it my highest recommendation. So you touched all of the things that I like in a comic book,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I said that in the video. So if anybody after this, they want to go check out what I actually said, because I don't want to give spoilers away while there's an active campaign.
One of the things we tried to do with this book, very intentionally, we do this with all of our books. Like you said, you've read Nora. You'll see that in Nora, things move. Like, the characters are always moving. Action drives conflict, in my opinion, and when the characters are in motion, it's much easier to create conflict. It's much easier to make a static thing like a comic book feel more cinematic as well. And that's something we try to apply to all of our books. But with the Saints, it's something we put on turbochargers, essentially. Like, these characters have places to go. Each episode or chapter is titled after a different location that we visit, or one of the heroes visits, or the reader visits in that chapter. And it's all the way around the globe. They're, if they're talking, they're going to be on a plane or on a boat headed to a site, or it's one of the effects we tried to achieve in the writing that Christian, among many other things, accomplished so brilliantly in the artwork. So he would take that kind of direction and really create a very cinematic, book, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I normally say, like, dance with the one that brought you. Like, if you're a comic book creator, stay with comics. But there's something about your Allegiant Arts comics that really, like, in the best sense of the way, they remind me of movies. Like, these should be movies. And I don't say that lightly, because I love comic books first and foremost more than I love film. And I'm a comic book snob. I admit it from.
Oh, we saw your collection.
Yeah. So
and it's hard to win. A guy like you is someone we really appreciate having.
Oh, thank you.
In this kind of engagement with the kind of productions we're making, because I think comics and cinema have so much in common. I mean, it's not,
They do.
it's not like you make a comic book and you're trying to make it like a movie, but a comic book has a slightly different set of tools, but you can use them in such a way that the reader feels like they're on a ride that's familiar, which is a film ride. And essentially a comic book can be cinematic like a film. It's just, a lot fewer frames, and making some very deliberate choices around that. Like one is that besides all the characters being in motion all the time, and action driving conflict is friggin' lost my train of thought.
Welcome to the club. I can't keep a thought in my head. At my work, I'll be like,
I had three and nailed two of them, and then the third one just went. Whoop.
Well, yeah, I do think like Will Eisner's The Spirit to me has always been like a theatrical comic. Like whenever I'm reading The Spirit, I always thought it was theater. The way he incorporates the lettering and everything. To me, they were always like theater set props.
Oh.
But when I read your comics, like The Futurists or anything, I feel like I'm watching like what's the name of that movie with Omar Sharif now The Man Who Would Be King. Like this is like a big movie on a wide screen that you should be going to a movie house to watch. And again, my friends who are watching this are probably like calling me a hypocrite, because I always say comic books are comic books, movies are movies. But and I don't think I'm saying anything bad. I think your comics would be wonderful translations to movies. If you don't mind, can I show a piece of art that I just thought was stunning?
Yeah,
from
of course.
The comic, The Futurists.
Please
Okay.
do.
I'm gonna go to my camera setting and I'm gonna flip the camera around just so you don't have to look at my face. But this is The Futurists. Okay, this is and I don't want to give out spoilers, but this is Butch Geist's artwork. Look at this. I don't know if I'm getting the majesty of this, but I actually stopped and was in awe of this. Like I've never been to this location, but I feel like this is a photograph. I feel like I visited this place. I really, really dug this. These real detestable people are taking artifacts out of this place, and that's all I want to say about them. But
you've seen our theme. We have detestable characters that become likable.
Boy, these guys are the worst.
Huh?
The guys from The Futurists are the worst.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see what happens.
Well, it is Imperial England, and if you look at Butch's work, you could see the film Zulu.
Yes.
The first time I worked, I looked at his pages, and Ali just sent me some books, and I looked at the first issue of The Futurists. And the Apothecary is full-on Orson Welles from Chimes at Midnight.
Okay.
So I emailed Butch. So am I imagining things, or is this Orson Welles from Chimes at Midnight? He goes, yep, absolutely. Yep. And he nails it spot on. And I think a lot of our artists have they have a love of films, and they have obviously a love of comics, and they use films as a reference.
Right.
And I find that I personally love that. I mean, that speaks to me. It may not speak to the more purists, but I like the fact that they do it, because I don't know, it's a way of galvanizing people to enjoy a story, and I appreciate when guys do that.
I didn't even realize it, but you made me think. Like here in Red Rooster, the sidekick, he's kind of a jerk too.
Oh boy.
Yeah, he changes.
Yeah,
yes,
he's got a great arc.
We have some really great. So Nick and I collaborated to write the next 3 episodes of Red Rooster. And
there's more?
Yeah, so we have a story in mind. We have a story on paper that is a little more small town, a little more. It's like there's less fanfare, like Cape and Cow's fanfare. It turns into like a small town. What would you call it, Nick?
It's a Southern Gothic tale. It's like
Southern Gothic mystery.
Okay. Think of it as Tom Joad with a cape.
Okay.
This is
I'm gonna not. This won't be a spoiler because it'll be in the promotions, and it already has been hinted at in the first book. But when Frank Cooper or Red Rooster finally rolls back into Big Town, his hometown, Strong Boy Thurman, his former sidekick, is the sheriff, and he's a wanted man. Frank Cooper is a wanted man, and so Frank Cooper has to put the pieces back together in a town that's in basically a nation that's completely turned his back on him, and he's lost everything, and has to make some tough decisions about whether or not he's going to face danger or not. And that's going to put him directly in conflict with a lot of individuals, including his former sidekick, who now kind of, keeps the town together. So,
yeah.
I loved all of these comics. And again, I hope I don't sound like a shill or anything, but I really dug this. And I pretty much don't showcase comics that I don't like. So if you didn't see anything on my channel,
that's great.
Do your own opinion. But
feel free to shill, man. Feel free.
Yes, please
well,
do,
I say this to all the guys. If I'm talking to you on my channel, like, first, I'm a fan of you, so I don't want to talk to people I don't like. Life is too short. So I like your work. I never met you guys before. I really enjoy your work, and I want you to make $1 million. Why? Because then you can make more comics, and then my life is better. I'm not one of these jealous people. You know what I mean? I want everybody to succeed. You guys making $1 million making Red Rooster comics only enhances my life.
Wonderful.
I love the attitude.
Yeah,
yeah.
And I kind of want you guys to show the big two that guys like Butch Guys are nailing out of the park, and they're not hiring them. Maybe I should be quiet because maybe they will get smart and take them away from you. But you know what I mean? Like, could they not afford? Is Marvel just paying so bad that they can't afford these wonderful talents? I mean, and you drew the Red Rooster. This is awesome.
Yes, yes, I drew that. My wife colored it.
Yes.
So yeah, she's a wonderful talent as well, and very proud of that book and the world that was created out of that.
It's a cool world. I really dig it.
And I said this earlier on, but we really do appreciate your enthusiasm around these books, and because you are the customer we were trying to win over. I mean, the longtime comic book fan, the serious comic book reader and collector, and the people that really, like you go into the cigar shops, and I don't know, Nick knows about cigars. I walk into a cigar shop, and it's like and I am the biggest dummy in the room, and everybody knows it. Like, okay, sit down and let us school you on cigars because you know nothing. I feel like you're that guy for the comic books, but you have a gentle hand and a lovely attitude.
Thank you.
But yeah, like I said, you're the customer whose hearts and minds were really went over.
Yeah,
it really starts with comics. Like, I think we are building things at Allegiance that can translate to film, and I think the art forms can work together in a really special and cool way. But winning over people like you is important to us because it's like a bridge, and we want to be true to comic books because it's such a powerful tool for telling stories and engaging the imagination. It's like we kind of think of it as like the fountainhead of the creative process because you're able to really get it like create on the fly and create.
I don't know if you see or if you watch any of my videos, but I just said it 2 days ago. Whenever I buy back issues, I said comic books to me is the premier medium for imagination. It could be one guy with words and pens and pencil, and whatever they imagine can be translated onto the paper. Like maybe animation is second, but that's expensive and film. Like look at Jack Kirby. They couldn't. The first time I actually watched the movie, and I was like, they came close to what Jack Kirby imagined was Terminator 2. You know what I mean? And he was already working for 30, 40, 50 years at that point. It took that long to catch up with what I thought comic books have already been doing. And I've been saying this for years. You show me a cool movie, a cool concept in the movie, and I'll show you a comic book that did it 30, 40 years earlier, hands down. So I love the medium of comics. And, and I love now that all these crowdfunded people are making their comics uncompromising, doing what they want. I think it's a golden age of comics. I think at this point, back in the 90s, I was into punk rock, and I used to go and see all these like do-it-yourself, like Discord records. They were making their own records. It was guys who didn't want to be a part of the record company scenes, and and they were making records. And some of them had bad production, some of them were wonderful, but it was just cool. These guys would do whatever they wanted, and I see that right now. This is guys are making whatever they want. I go on Twitter and I'm finding guys that are, they're making 500 of their own comics, and I'm able to find them, go on Indiegogo or Kickstarter, and get. So I'm glad I stopped with Marvel, because then I never would have thought to go out and look for you guys.
Well, if you go into your point, look how long it took James Cameron to do Avatar.
Yep.
You think about it, The Fifth Element was a Mobius book.
It absolutely was. I never thought about that.
And look how long that book was out before it got to the screen. 30 plus years, dude.
Yeah, you're right. I never thought about that. That's something to.
It's taken a while for cinema to progress to the point where you can actually expand things a lot.
Right. Look how bad most superheroes movies were. Pre-2000. They couldn't do it. And we were happy to get those Lou Ferrigno as the Hulk, because that's all we got.
Right.
Sacred Geek asks, is the first Saints book still available?
Yes, it's available on the 2 campaigns with the link that John's provided are right here. So you can get a package where you can get the first volume and the second volume, and then kind of buckle your seatbelt for the third.
Yeah, cool. And I got this little Illuminante pin that I love.
Awesome.
There you go.
I wear it to work, and people ask me about it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like I said, that comic pushed all my buttons. It pushed everything I wanted in a comic book. It was, but and I said that it was my favorite, but then I'm like, nah, I like Red Rooster is my favorite. Nah, I think Nora's Saga is my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever I'm currently reading, and again, guys, I'm not just blowing smoke. I'm not just kissing ass. I think these are wonderful comics. And it was funny because I kickstarted so many comics, and I for some reason I just read the Saints first, and then I was like, wait a minute, I think I got all the Allegiance arts, and I realized that I had gotten all so some of them I got doubles. I got
cool.
Yeah, I got the Red Rooster in the big format, and I got it in the floppy comic.
Awesome.
But I'm glad.
Very
like I
cool.
said, I want you guys to be rich.
We wish there was 1,000 like you, John.
Oh, yeah, I know. Only 1,000. Is that all it takes?
No.
Well, I'm thinking keep humble. Let's just keep humble.
Okay. Yeah, I read somewhere that if you had 1,000 fans of anything, that's really a hardcore following of 1,000 fans. It's really all you need.
I think that probably bears true if you can have 1,000 reliable.
1,000 reliable fans.
Not like totally reliable. That means your reach is quite a bit larger, and different things might resonate more, but it gives you probably the fan base you need to experiment and, play with your art a little bit and get your creations out there. It's a hard number to get to, All
right, tell me about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bush Pandown is a regular on my channel, and he asks, if John backs it, I'll have to check it out. Which series should he start with? What do you recommend?
I would like.
We have right now we're featuring the Saints, and that's the one we're really pushing. So I would definitely say jump into the Saints. It will deliver soon. I would get the Saints Volume 1 and Volume 2. I think Volume 2 is the most recent thing that we've produced, that Nick and I have written, and that Christian has drawn. So I think it represents the strongest in both art and story that we've presented thus far, but everything else is very strong. It's the Saints is built off some really great foundations and temples we laid early on. Nora is also available in the Saints campaign, so
yeah,
you could pick up Nora and the Saints there.
And I recommend that. That is wonderful. I can't wait to find
Reeves.
I'm trying to find. There's no jerk in Nora. What's going on?
She's
kind of a handful, man. She's a little extra, not in a great way.
Yeah,
bit of a moaner.
Yeah,
I just thought of her as a little girl, but there's always somebody unlikable in your comics that wins you over. But Nora's just a little girl. I don't want to say I don't like her. That would be mean.
yeah, she's a little bit insufferable, and then there is change and growth for every character involved in the cast. But that Nora Saga is one of the books that can skew just a little bit younger, and that was very
I think that's great.
Yeah, so that's a book that you could pick up and read with your young niece or nephew,
Yes.
or pass along and say, hey, like this kind of it's like an entry level. It's not an entry level book. It's actually a really sophisticated story and fun storyline with a really great ending, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Mm.
I'm dying to ask you, but I don't want to know because I like it that much. I will say this, and I'm glad that you brought it up. I'm a big fan and a big proponent of all ages comics. You know, we take that for granted that for most of the 70s and the 80s, even like, you know, the stuff that we think of like the John Byrne X-Men and Marv Wolfman Teen Titans, those were all ages. And they weren't dummy stuff. Like little kids could read them and adults could read them. So I think that's something that modern Marvel is and DC, they're forgetting that, you know, almost like a drug dealer. You got to get them while they're young. You got to hook them while they're young, and they're not doing that. You know, Alternative's doing a good job with some all ages comics, and I think a lot of companies are missing. That's a target audience. You got to get kids to read. And Nora's Song is wonderful for kids to read. Matter of fact, I'm going to buy a copy for my nieces to read. You know, and I think it's important. You know, because first off, nobody's reading anymore except for guys like us. You know, and my nieces and nephews, they're into manga because they don't like modern comics. And, you know, let's be realistic. They're not going to go on Indiegogo and crowdfund, you know, 13-year-olds and look for expensive comic books, you know, artisanal comics. So I think it's important to make comics that little kids would enjoy. It's an important thing, and I'm glad you're doing it.
So did you buy Song of the Fossegrin? Did you buy the 6-volume episode, the 6-volume graphic novel?
No. I for whatever reason I missed the Futurist and I missed Nora's Saga. I only heard of Nora's Saga when I saw Kelsey Shannon talking about it on another live stream. And I was like, wait a minute, I missed this because let's face it, comic book collectors are obsessive. I was like, wait a minute, I like this company. Like I'm taking the term fanboy back. Like I'm a fanboy, and that means I buy everything from your company. But I missed it. I was like, I got to get this before.
I think we have a copies left. They're available on the Saints, right? Or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can add Nora to your Saints order on this current campaign with the link below right here.
Yeah.
So I definitely would recommend it. I mean, Kelsey Shannon is a brilliant talent.
Yeah.
He
illustrated
all 6 episodes and 6 covers, and it's stunning. Nick and myself and Kelsey wrote the last couple of chapters together. We had an absolute blast of a time doing it. We love how we're very proud of this project.
Yeah, you should be. It's a good comic.
It is a great entry point for new readers. And one of the things you said, John, that Marvel did back in the day was all ages stories, and not every one of our book is all ages. Like the Saints probably
the same. Yeah,
but this is something you can pass along, but it has to be good. You said they did all ages stuff, but they were really well told.
Right. They didn't insult, like all ages doesn't mean dumb it down. You know, people forget, you know, the Hobbit was all ages. That ain't dumb.
Absolutely.
You know, the Wizard of Oz is all ages. That ain't dumb. You know, and Harry Potter. I don't know if you guys read Harry Potter. That, you know, the books are wonderful. I'm not particularly a fan of the movies, but the books are wonderful. And the first book is very simple, but she purposely aged them up to like the 7th book is he's an 18-year-old kid or 17-year-old, you know, and it deals with politics in a way that a kid could appreciate. And I think that's important. You know, and we got a whole generation of people who reading because of Harry Potter, because the Rawlings wrote books for kids that weren't stupid, you know? And I think, and that's what Nora's Saga is. You know, I guarantee you my nieces and nephews are going to enjoy this, but it's not dumb. And I want to know what's going on. 54-year-old man. I want to know what's going on with this. I don't know. Now I'm feeling bad that you're calling her an insufferable girl. I liked her. I got nieces and nephews, and they're all smart asses. So I just figured she was a regular girl.
It is. She's immature, right? She's
immature and a little self-centered.
I'm an immature 54-year-old. Look at me. I'm sitting in a room full of toys.
So in a sense, that's kind of the adult journey. Sometimes we can also be immature children, like we all were when we were children, and it's easy. And sometimes we indulge in that, and that's where, you know, that's kind of what we draw from it.
Yeah, whenever I read a comic, I always get a little arrogant. I play a little game called Beat the Writer, and I try to figure out where it's going, or come up with a better story. So far, I'm 2 issues into North. I have no freaking clue. So you're winning that. Red Rooster, I thought it was going to go someplace else, so you beat me. So
Wow.
Congratulations on that. The Futurist, I'm not even going to begin. I have no idea. I only read the first issue. I missed the second issue. So I have no idea where you're going, and I'm actually kind of scared. And the Saints, I know where I want it to go, but I think the writing is really good. And that I said at the beginning of this video, the problem with a lot of crowdfunders, and I don't mean to insult anybody's feelings, is the writing. A lot of these guys are artists, so their comics, and I'm a word guy. So the fact that your art is outstanding. I mean, you draw Red Rooster, you got Kelsey Shannon, you got Jack, Butch Geis. Am I saying his name right? Is that how you say?
Yes.
Okay, I always, because one of my friends used to correct me and said that. But the art is great, but this writing is outstanding. Really,
Yeah,
really
don't forget
good.
David Williams. We got David Williams who did Bass.
Bass, yes.
Oh,
And
you know what? Bass I missed also. That's coming tomorrow. I was hoping it was going to show up today.
Well, we still have the campaign open for Bass.
Oh, he probably ordered comics.
Yeah, Bass Reeves. It's
all
funny because
6
I
episodes.
was like, is this a real person? And I had to look up.
Yes.
He's a real person.
Yeah, I think you're in for a really enjoyable read with those comic books. We have the campaign for the hardcover and softcover, the complete season. So we do like 6 episode seasons. So it's about 136 pages for a complete story arc. And we've wound up, Bass is done the inking portion of it. We're coloring the last episode, and then you're going to get that book to the printer and ship it out. It's a little overdue. It's but it is available on Indiegogo as well. So if you want to add that to, your Allegiance purchase for the evening or whenever you hear this, that's a fun book that's going to be a fun book to get. It's Kevin Grievous on the story. And Kevin, if you don't know, is a very accomplished writer and creator, responsible for Underworld, and what was his other film? The
Underworld, the movies with
Underworld. Yeah.
Oh,
Kevin,
really?
I Frankenstein.
And I Frankenstein. Thank you.
Oh, wow. I love those movies.
But Kevin is in a very
and had nothing to do with Kate Beckinsale in a tight leather outfit.
He was responsible in some way. He wrote the script, so I'm assuming he was at casting. I don't know.
Yeah, those are fun movies. I really like them.
Yeah. So Kevin wrote Bass Reeves, and Bass was is a real passion project for both him and David Williams, and for myself and everyone involved. Bass Reeves was an Arkansan, as am I and my wife.
That's where you grew up?
Yes. Yeah. And he, a real life U.S. Marshal, born a slave, became a bounty man and a famous tracker, and then a feared and respected and venerated lawman for the U.S. Marshal Service.
You'd almost call him a Mary Sue if you made him up.
you maybe could. I don't know. But he certainly, we read a lot of historical accounts, and there are some tall tales around Bass Reeves. He was a very notable and famous figure regionally and nationally. But he was almost a mythic figure, according to both historical accounts, which are extraordinary. He arrested over 2,000 outlaws, which I think is a record of single individual arrest to this day. And rode one of the largest police territories in the world at the time, and did so for many months on end to bring in outlaws, and was a marksman of a feared degree, as well as a master of disguise.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. And there are many historical accounts of his using disguises to catch outlaws. So he really was kind of like a Wild West Batman, and that's the way David Williams handled the artwork. It doesn't, it's very.
Can't wait. Yeah, that is so cool. Oh, I'm getting telephone calls, of course, right? Calling me live. My friends like, "Hey, you live."
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
thank you.
Dave calls Bass Reeves his
Dark Knight.
Dark Knight.
Oh, that's cool. That is cool. That is really
Maybe-
cool.
Should we show everyone the campaign site? What do you think?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, sure.
All right, I'm going to share screen. Hope
Okay.
that works. I want the Saints Awakening. Let's do that. You may lose me physically, but here we go. Here is the here's the video, gang. Oh, of course. Let's do that again. Pretty nifty, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
All
Pretty
right.
cool.
So we've got some really cool, what do you call it? Some photos here. I'm hoping you can see them.
Here we go.
Yep.
Artwork. And what we
There
did
we
is we chose just some great art and images, and everyone is a painting in its own way.
Yeah.
Yep.
Tell you what, Mitch, why don't you go ahead and take it away, and I'll
Yeah,
curate, and you
Scroll-
can
yeah,
give us
scroll
the
to the
411.
Yeah, so this is the artwork of Christian Rosado. First of all, while we're on the campaign, I want to mention that the book is complete. Like, it is packaged and ready to go. It's lettered, everything curated, and we are simply taking pre-orders for this. Our Saints 1 and 2 connected. They are absolutely connected, and expect a third volume, which is already halfway completed with the artwork. So, yeah, we're ahead of the curve on this one. So, a great campaign to back, and I definitely would recommend getting volume 1 and 2 and getting it buckled in for volume 3. Again, Christian's. Let's scroll through Christian's work and talk about the interior artist Christian Rosado just a bit. So Christian was discovered by my wife, actually, Elizabeth, who's a notable color artist. She's Eisner-nominated color artist.
Yes.
She's actually upstairs coloring some Superman stuff with Lee Weeks right now, which is
Oh,
really
cool.
So she found Christian through an art rep that had been in contact with us, and was he's out of Peru and was doing illustration work down there, and was looking to enter the American market or just make some more connections. And she spotted him and brought him to our attention, and we were like, well, okay. We were just talking about greenlighting the Saints project as our 5th Allegiance Arts title, and you know, putting a lot of focus on it. And then we saw Christian's work and was like, okay, let's do this. Let's you know, give him a real breakout, because this is a guy that really deserves it. He's a fantastic illustrator. Volume 1 is
He's a good storyteller.
Drawn. He's very cinematic. He's very
much so.
Influenced by film and high chiaroscuro, that heavy ink work, like kind of Jean-Paul Leon, Zafino style inking, which I know are big influences for him, and I love that style. I grab it sometimes when I'm doing my own work, but I work in a little bit of a thinner line. But I love this stuff. All digital. He colors it himself as well.
Oh, okay.
So these are all Christian's colors. He's improved, believe it or not, from episode 1. These are some of the original drawings he did. We commissioned him to do like some exploratory sketches, character designs and stuff, and this was part of that set. So that's real early stuff. I love that piece. It kind of embodies that's kind of embodies the premise of the entire book, or at least the setup. You know, this is about adventure. It's high tech. It's mystery and thrills, and it really kind of a spy thriller in a lot of ways, in a different
Yes,
context.
it is. You said it's high tech, but it's also high tech that is believable. It's not like fantasy high tech. You know, I believed every one of the gadgets, and I believed all the explanations. You know, I don't even know if you researched it and this is real stuff, but that's how good you did it. You know.
Well,
I think for us it was in all the worlds. It's not just this one. Things have to be germane to the setting. Because I think both of us, without really talking about it, we didn't want to take the reader out of the story. So if things don't have a sense of verisimilitude, you're just going to throw people off. And honestly, I think you're going to either lose them or make them angry. And it's not that I'm so worried about what people think. I know for me, I really hate being taken out of the story with what we call like clunky dialogue, overused tropes, bad situations. And I'm not talking about story bad. I'm talking about created badly, poor storytelling. And I think for us, yes, put pressure on a character, but give them a way out that is something the audience can grab onto. Right. And I know for us that we did that we tried that with the Saints, and the story has to be true to the setting. Otherwise, it's like, well, what are we doing here?
Yeah, the technology was cool and it made sense. And it's not like Tony Stark. He's not a wizard. He can't. You know what I mean? Like he can't just wave his hands and use technology. I thought it was really cool, really believable.
Awesome.
Well, I want to boast about this cover, if no one minds.
Oh, boast away. That color is excellent.
Thank you.
Butch Geis and Mitch Brietweiser, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. So Butch, we commissioned the second volume cover from Butch after he was wrapping up the Futurist book, and he turned in this we had no guidance really, other than we wanted sort of a composite kind of poster style image, and which is something he's really notable and very talented in doing. And he turned this
a legend,
beautiful inked piece in, and I went kind of crazy with it. It was so stunning as just a piece of inked artwork, black and white artwork. And then I just spent a couple of days just losing my absolute mind on it with color.
Can we bring up this question by Bush Pan Down?
Sure, which
about are the Saints 1 and 2 connected, or are they separate stories?
Oh yeah, we addressed that. Yeah, I think they are definitely connected stories. So
yeah. All right. So
one thing he mentioned too about this piece was the contrast. Super important when you're talking about color. Color can. One thing Elizabeth and I both are really passionate, sticklers on, is making sure there's some white with the black in each piece that you're doing, so that there is that value contrast. Unless you really deliberately don't want value contrast, but on a cover it just makes things pop.
Now, that in a perfect world, that would be like a billboard, like over in Manhattan. You know what I mean? Like the Saints, and I'd be walking down the street, looking up and seeing I don't even know how big they are, 25 by 50 foot billboard. That would be awesome. So cool.
Well, let's. I love your vision, so I see it too, and that's definitely what we went for. I mean, we really swung for the fences on this and made it. It's a rip roaring ride, and the kind of ride that you would expect if it's the kind of excitement that you would have when you're going to like the sequel to your favorite action film, right? I mean, you want to get that kind of tingle, and like you're going up the roller coaster, and it's going to be a rip roaring time. So it's that's the kind of the promise of the premise, is something I like to call it, and that's something we want to put on the cover and in the copy, in the pitch copy, is just let you know what kind of ride you're in for. And on this one, we are we're yanking you around quite a bit. I mean, we're pulling you from one place to another, and putting you and our hero in some pretty extreme situations, and it's a familiar kind of thing. It's a familiar ride, but it's different.
I read I don't read it anymore, but a lot of Marvel and DC's, like I always kind of derogatorily say, like, oh, these are just Netflix pictures, and like they're trying to, it's like two people sitting in a coffee shop just talking about mundane crap, and it's like you could easily see this on Netflix when you turn on TV, and it's whatever, some Hallmark channel or whatever, some cheaply made for TV movie. But I look at yours and I say it's cinematic, and I'm trying to make a difference from, for anybody who says like, I thought you didn't like when people were pitching. No, like The Saints to me is like an 80s action movie. Like, I don't think you're going to be insulted by saying this is like Indiana Jones, but for now,
Yeah,
and I
definitely
look
not
at Red
offended.
Rooster, and I look at Red Rooster and I'm like, this is like, I love the movie The Rocketeer, so I think like it's like a Rocketeer type of movie, like a retro movie for right now. I think it's in Nora Saga. I don't know why, but I picture that like Chronicles of Narnia, something like these I'm comparing these to movies that I love rather than some like cheaply made for TV Netflix pitch, or you know what I mean. So I know my friends will be like, I can't believe you're saying these should be movies. No, I'm meaning this in the best possible like cinema action movie. Like we still watch the first Indiana Jones movie and sit up in our seat and get nostalgic. We still watch Star Wars and we love it. That's what I think your Allegiance Arts comics could be, or should be.
Well, we're definitely trying to embody a certain set of I don't want to call them values. What would you call them, Nick? Like to embody a certain aesthetic, a certain.
Yes.
I would use the word aesthetic. We have some rules, and they've developed, and so I mean, are they hard and fast? Yeah, some are. No captions unless it's a setting.
Yeah.
No voiceovers.
Yes. So the
no thought bubbles.
Yeah.
We again over time we've talked, and it's like, we want to make sure that the people are present. A flashback is okay, but it's got to lead to somewhere. In other words, I mean, I like Noah Baumbach films and Woody Allen films, and I like small films like that.
Yeah, me too. But there's a place for everything.
Right, but that's not what we're writing here.
No,
so
you're writing amazing action thrillers that are
right.
going to stand the test of time.
What was it we were saying, Mitch? Yeah, people can have a conversation, but it's going to be on a plane. It's going to be on a boat. There's an explosion. And anytime there's a lull in the action, and let's say two guys are talking, it's not necessarily exposition because neither one of us love exposition through dialogue.
Yeah, that is rule.
That's a hard, fast rule.
Yeah, a hard. Yeah.
That is a hard rule, man.
If it's that's gone. Like that usually makes it out on the first edit or first pass.
Yeah, I could, and that I think is a rookie writer mistake, and I'm seeing a lot of that in modern mainstream comics. Is just an info dump where you could barely see the figure in this panel with so much words and everything. And I always say, you can have heady conversations, you could say important things, but this is comic books. This is visual mediums. There's got to be explosions, airplanes. Maybe they're just cleaning their guns in the background or something like that. Something exciting.
Yeah, very, very much so. You can have, you can capture that kind of depth but the action, if you put the characters in motion, this is something that we've found. And you mentioned Netflix pitches, like they're just talking heads writing for Netflix shows. Well, that's actually a problem with shows, right? It's not a problem with comic books,
because they're worried about the budget. Comic books have infinite budget.
And I was having a conversation. I don't want to single out any particular shows, but I was watching a very large budget TV drama, fantasy drama, and it was all talking heads, and it was driving me absolutely batty. And it's like, this is the opposite of that. I mean, there's so many missed opportunities, and the show to me was boring when it definitely did not have to be. And these are decisions that are made way at the tippy top. And some of these shows have budgets where they don't have to do that, but they're choosing to do this with a little more effort. You can put the characters into dramatic action. And when the characters are under the kind of pressure that drives action, conflict is much easier to find, to grab a hold of. And anytime that we get stuck on a scene, just about every time we get stuck in a place, it's like, well, what's setting these two characters, or this character and this obstacle, or whatever it is, whether they're maybe allies, but we still look for the thing that's driving them apart, the conflict between two friends, even like in the case of Red Rooster and Strong Boy, which is really a driving factor in the storyline. So it's just about finding conflict on every page and having that conflict be germane to the intention, knowing the growth where your characters are going, right?
Mhm.
And making sure that conflict always drives that character growth just a little bit, forces that change, forces them to think, or forces the reader to, consider the hero's choices or what it may be. So, and then also having some hell of a great fun, right? Once you're getting characters in action and in conflict, it's fun, right? It is just it and at a certain point
Well,
with the Saints,
it's show, not tell.
it's
The basic,
exactly
the basic.
It's actually a bit of both. It's a little see dog, say dog. I mean, when I started writing for Allegiance, I had a learning curve because I wrote scripts. I've made films. I worked in film and television for like close to 20 years. And so I'd have like, I use the example. Dude walks in bar, walks across the way, slaps his friend on the back, throws a $5 on the bar, and give me a beer. Well, that's like 5 beats. That's 5 panels, and nothing happened. So there had to be a learning curve for me in terms of like, well, it's like, Nick, they don't move in the panels, right? You know that. I mean, that's not
You could show that
exactly what he said, but that's kind of the way it was. It was sort of explained that way. And I had to learn that the economy of storytelling is, I think, personally makes one a better writer.
Sure, I think so.
You know, I don't mind. Again, I love all types of movies. I'm not a snob in some ways. I even like terrible movies, like those. They're not even B movies. They're like stuff that's on Mystery Science Theater 3000 that people mock.
Yeah, they're fun too. As
But-
long as you know what you're getting into. Yeah.
But the economy of storytelling made me a better writer, because I had now to think. You'll hear, if you were to overhear us talking in a story conference, you hear the phrase, well, where's the turn in this? Because we want conflict in every scene. So there has to be a turn. Where does it turn? Is it on panel 3? It's like, I wanted to write 8 panels. It's just like, bring it down, 6.
Right. So
I think,
for our writing process, just I'll back it up just a little bit and explain
Okay.
kind of our process around the Saints. So Nick and I get together around the Saints or anything else that we're doing. We get together, the two of us, or with a partner if we're working with somebody else, and we do a treatment. And then, so in the case of the Saints, Nick and I sat down and agreed on, the main beats. Like, here's where we're going. Here's what the characters are doing. Here's what's basically, we all kind of know what's happening in general. Nick goes off and he writes a pretty. You stick to the treatment, but you put it all out. You go and do a first draft. It's a draft, right? It's a pretty thorough first draft. Comes back, and it's like Nick, like you were saying, I've kind of picked it up from there. Nick tends to overwrite, which is wonderful because it's so much fun to edit, and overwriting is great. So Nick will come back, and there's 8 panels on every page, and we're like, okay, all right, well, we're gonna have to dial some of this back. But this is wonderful because when we have 8 panels on every page or whatever, when it's overwritten, then we'll go through each scene or each page, and look for. We look for the turn. Sometimes it'll be like in panel 6 or panel 5, and we'll look for the right dialogue, right? The dialogue that sets the scene. We'll read through the script a number of times, the draft a number of times, and we're like, we have to simplify, we have to condense, because there's a real estate issue with comics. You have to be very concise with the information you give the reader, because you're very limited in real estate. So we'll go through, and sometimes it'll be on panel 4 or panel 5, and it's the dialogue the character says. And I'm like, well, what if we move this to panel 1, right? And then we look at the scene that way, right? So we will reread a scene and kind of walk through it with starting at this panel and see how it plays out in a much different way. And then the turn falls in the right place. And then all of a sudden an 8-panel page becomes a 5-panel page. And it's far more efficient and germane to our plot and our core conflicts. And there's other wonderful things that happen in this process, as Nick, too. I'll let you.
Are you guys fan of European comics? I know before we mentioned heavy metal, but
absolutely.
when I read your comics, I get more of like a European vibe than American vibe, and again, that's not an insult; that's a compliment. You know.
Oh no, actually, I usually have my copy of the Black Sad graphic novel here. I put it up because my space was a mess. I had to like get books off the floor. You know, because everything's piling.
Fan. You got books everywhere.
But I love that European stuff, and I think we are. I don't have like an extensive catalog or that I've read of European material, believe it or not. I have a couple of books. I'm a newbie with that. That I've referenced, and of course I'm a huge Mobius fan and whatnot, but I don't have a ton of those kinds of influences. It's just a matter of I know Nick does, right? But we kind of met with a lot of common aesthetic interests and storytelling interests and interests in terms of art and cinema and how we like to portray our storytelling. Our storytelling sensibilities were in alignment. Very much. And to be truthful, John, we're detached and disengaged from modern comics. I couldn't tell you unless we're looking for talent. I couldn't tell you who's who. Notice who I'm talking about. Guys from the 70s when I was a kid. I'm not talking about anyone past Terry Austin. That's like where I'm done with the big two. That's like a 40-year gap, man.
Yeah. And I don't think
I think I said this last week. Walt Simonson put it out there that he was available for work, and Marvel said that the fans don't want you anymore. Are you kidding me? Walt Simonson.
Wow.
Who are these fans that don't want Walt Simonson? Name them. Give me 4 names of people who don't want Walt Simonson. This guy's a freaking legend, you know. You know, and I don't know if you know RJ from the Fourth Age. He's got Mike Gustovich working for him. The guy is phenomenal.
Oh,
you know, we got great talent out here. All I can assume is that Marvel is paying peanuts and they don't want to pay these guys. You know, so God bless you for hiring these wonderful talents. You know,
could be.
Amazing.
Well, I don't know what it's like over there because we've been pretty detached for a while.
Keep it that way.
Our very limited experiences with is that my wife is coloring Superman right now, like right upstairs in our studio.
I love
who's doing and I know the team has been really awesome for her to work with and whatnot. So the vibe there is pretty good. But I do feel like there are a lot of missed opportunities in comic books in general. Like Nick said, we're a little detached on what the mainstream and contemporary comics is really doing. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Like we view comics, the medium. And this is one of the reasons I really appreciate talking to you is that because you're such an experienced reader, collector, a knowledgeable connoisseur is the right word. And I'm not necessarily
don't forget Crazy Whack Job. That's my wife.
Crazy Whack Job. Well, that's what we have. Really, what we have in common, I think, because you'd have to be a whack job to do what we're doing. But I love comic books, the medium. I'm not like a history. I have I've acquired a lot of knowledge about comics and comic book history and the great artists that are still with us and of the past and influenced by a great many of them. But I'm really a huge fan of the power of it as the medium as an art form.
Yes.
And I've always been an artist.
Here.
I approach this from the artist side. I see this as sort of a vehicle, a powerful vehicle for transformative art. And I always grew up drawing and writing both. I was a little stronger as an artist, and so I kind of took that path early on, but delved more into writing a little later on and learned from learned from a lot of guys like Mike Barron, Nick, of course, who has an extensive, career in film and TV, and many others. And we the Allegiance Arts Project is essentially sort of a manifestation or a test bed for the power of the comic book medium as a vehicle for transformative art. And that's I don't know if that connects really or makes sense, but that's certainly the way
I'd like to piggyback off that.
Being received by someone who is a connoisseur of comics in a way that it was so intended.
I'd like to piggyback off that a little bit. I have a fine art background. As a matter of fact, I was going to college for fine arts. Okay. I got into commercial art, and I just said, I don't want to spend my life in front of a drawing table. I don't think that's me. So it goes to show you I was not given the gift of prophecy, because here I am in front of a computer, so it goes to show you what I know. So I got into theater at Florida State, and then eventually got into film in communications department. I got my theater degree. Then I went to film school in London. And so when we talk about stuff, we talk about things and how does it relate to life? I don't know how this is going to sound, but this is how we talk. We don't want our comics to be comics about other comics. And I think the problem with a lot of the films that people are seeing, there's films made from other films. I was just overhearing someone, I was at a coffee shop doing something, and I always heard people complaining that there's all these remakes. Everything's a remake. They have new ideas. Or they'll say, I just saw such and such. It's exactly like that movie from 2 years ago, and they're upset. And so I think, although
your comics are original ideas, I got to give you credit. I can't say, Norah Song, this redone, or
Norah Saga is very much.
It's all new stuff. Good for you.
And we try and infuse each book with, I'm going to use the word verisimilitude again, about life. We talk about life. How many times have I said, what we should do? And I tell a story about something that happened to me, or you would, or can we use this? And I don't think I ever shut down. I think I'm one of those maniacal beasts that I'll watch someone do something. I go, is this something? Can I use this? And I store it in my brain. We were talking about a project we haven't started yet, where I told about this thing that happened to me in a London tube station. I was married at the time, to a British woman, and this very intense thing happened where with a passenger. I'm not going to say it. I'm like going, I think we can use this. And we started to get excited about it.
Well,
and he's like, go ahead.
Was it a werewolf? That's the only famous thing I know that happened at a tube station in America.
No.
Well, a werewolf of a certain type, maybe. The story for a later date. But a similar thing happened for Jermaine to the Saints. Because more recently, Nick and I have been working on the Saints episode 6, which will be the season finale of the Saints and wraps up the first arc of the storyline. And we had an absolute blast of a time working on this as a season finisher. The book just got stronger and stronger as it went on, and as we really grew to love and engage and toy with these characters in this world. But we were, of course, the hero's going to have a finale moment, right? And we're this for Jean-Marc Lapointe, a really transformative struggle at the end of the book. And this is something that we knew had to happen, but we had no clear vision of it as we marched into it. And I had thrown something out that was almost a lark, and Nick was like, no. This happens a lot between both of us. It's like somebody, no, not necessarily any dumb ideas. It's just like the best idea wins. And that's the attitude we have when we're creating. You park your ego at the door, and it's like, all right, we're in it to make the best book possible. This is for the quality of the book and the fans and the craftsmanship of it, and we're gonna go for it. And so we'll throw out anything. And I threw out a potentially wacky thing, because we had this conundrum: how do we get our heroes out? How do we get them into this difficult situation and then get them out of it? It's like the final hair-raising kind of thing. I threw out a wacky idea, and Nick's like, hold on, no, wait. Just let me take this back and I'm going to play with it. And so Nick takes it back for a week or so or two, and writes this wacky concept for Jean-Marc into the finale, and came back with something really
cool. Looking forward to it.
And we really pared it down. The what he's not telling you is in the editing is when it comes alive. Sometimes, you know, no matter how much you think it's wonderful, it's not really good until you get it good.
Right.
You know, there's some things in there like moments, you know, and
paper it and polish it up.
Well, yeah, and in this, he's not wrong. This could have went disastrously wrong. It could have been an unmitigated disaster because the idea is so outlandish.
It was risky. It's very risky, and
it's very risky, but it works. Damn it!
This is it. This is going to be an issue 6.
This will be in the finale, and
now I gotta read it. Thinking, well, I guess I'll see.
You will see. So it's also one of these scenes that never would have happened if we'd have pre-planned it from episode 1. Because it took all of us, it took the entire team, and Nick and I specifically, 5 issues into getting into these characters and understanding what makes them tick in order to make this finale really work. And
did you think that the characters at one point start to take over and write themselves?
You know,
I hear that a lot.
It is sometimes true. Like you do understand what motivates them and how the conflict is driving change within that character. Nick, what do you think? I think
I hate the word fluidity, but that's the only way I can describe it.
Well, there's got to be a logical sequence. This character's not going to do something totally out of character 5 issues later.
Here's the best way to describe it. We found things shifting for the better when we started to give these secondary and characters a life outside of their one scene, because we had all these things. So when I'm off by myself writing, I'll make a note and I'll hit Mitch up, because one thing I don't want to do, and I think this is, let me park it for a minute. If you're getting paid to write, whether you're staff, salary, you're a freelancer, I don't care what. You have to serve your client. And yes, I am an employee of Allegiance Arts, but they are the client. And so you owe it to the person who cut your check to not act like a banana head. So you contact them and go, listen, I'm thinking of this. Does this work? And more often than not, it's like, yes, let's do this. And then I'll go away. So there's a lot of freedom, but you still have to be true to the story. So over time, we had these just kick-ass characters that I don't know I'll be honest, I can't remember how we came up with it. It's like, what if we expanded this guy? And what we found is all of these peripheral characters became, in many ways, more interesting than the primary ones, but they all got sucked into the Jean-Marc Lapointe vortex like a Hoover. They got all hoovered up into this crazy, bat guano crazy world.
So this comic is truly a collaboration between both of you, right? Yeah, like I always say,
and
you put oxygen.
And not just us,
Patrick too. So the Saints was originally created conceptually by myself and Patrick Stiles. He's listed as the co-creator on the title. We hired Mike Barron. Patrick wrote some of the first episode. Worked with Mike to write the whole first volume. And then Mike worked on the second volume on the first draft. And then Nick and I picked it up from there. And so this has been a something that was written from a treatment early on, and that's evolved over time in some really awesome ways. And there are threads that were being pulled in episodes 1 and 2 and in 3 that, like what Nick was saying, like these secondary characters who were actually really important to the reader and to Jean-Marc and the overall storyline, the overall plot of the book. And really, it's a way to look at, so in the setup in volume 1, Jean-Marc is taking you on the ride. Like it's his trip down the rabbit hole as his life is unraveled by this secretive organization called the Forge, and and once he's fallen through the rabbit hole, then you'll meet Rachel Brewer in Volume 1. You remember her, right? So
Yes.
she takes a more prominent. Her storyline really evolves in episodes, or in Volume 2, episodes 3 and 4. And she doesn't take center stage. She's not the hero, but her life is dramatically affected by her relationship with Jean-Marc. And and then you get to basically, then she slides down the rabbit hole, right? She has some unavoidable, unescapable realities, and she's in for a hell of a ride too. And then she, there's a character she meets in the book named Collins, who's her editor for her book. I'm not spoiling anything with that, I think. So,
No.
And then Collins, by the nature of him engaging with Rachel, then he gets wrapped up into this, and he's with dramatic stakes for everyone involved. This is a real life, and every page has a life and death situation. Well, not a situation, but every character is under a life and death stakes for them.
I got to say the premise is phenomenal. I really think the premise is phenomenal, and I don't want to spoil it because you got the active campaign, but it made me go out alone.
Uh-oh, I think we've lost.
Calling me again.
Okay.
I had to go out of my way to research this, and that got me into a rabbit hole of the world that you created is scarier because it's based in truth. Yeah. Oh,
I'm glad you said that, because once we started to, and did we ever send you the galleys of episode 3 and 4?
No.
Okay. I think we failed on that one, because it would have been
okay. That's okay. I'm not asking for anything from anybody.
No, it's not. I know you're not asking, but I'm trying to talk to you and answer you without I'm trying to you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to make sure I don't give anything away, and then I look
right. Don't give anything away. It's a wonderful premise, and I want people to be surprised, because that's what got me hooked.
Mitchell used the phrase, "We're peeling back an onion."
Yes.
And I use, they're going down a rabbit hole, and has a hell of a drop, and it does. It's everything you want in international espionage.
Yes.
And I'm really proud of it. I'm not going to lie. Episode 6, 5 and 6 are my favorites, because we finally got a chance to dive into the things that we had talked about, because we had to make a turn to get it to where we wanted to go. And everyone has a moment. Everyone has high stakes, and it is life and death, because I personally feel, and I know Mitch feels the same way, that all good drama, the characters, especially the main character, they have to face a life or death situation where either themselves or someone close to them risks losing their life. It's from Greeks up to today.
You just create a multiverse and have different variations of the character come out, so there's no stakes, right?
Well, it's funny you should say that, because one of the things, and I loved Iron Man, don't get me wrong, I really liked Iron Man. And Iron Man 3, I think I saw it at a time when it became like one of those old sweaters you love. You got Ben Kingsley, and it's wonderful. And I just needed to see it. I can't explain why. It could have been the winter nonsense. But poor Gwyneth Paltrow is getting thrown around his Malibu house. She's in a tin suit. Old girl her hair's not even messed up. She's a $135 dripping wet, and she doesn't have a single concussion. Yeah. And I just said, you know what? I'm done now. There are no consequences to people's actions, because after all, everyone's gone. Oh, we'll go back in time, and we'll just not let him do that.
That's my. I know I catch hell with my friends when I say this, but I liked Infinity War, but I hated Endgame, because it's just, there's no consequences. They could just generate Infinity Gauntlets and fix everything. Anybody who dies now in Marvel MCU movies is because they decided to let them die.
Well, when I was a kid, and this book was old when I found it, I had to, like you, I went and got back issues. When Spider-Man's girlfriend, Gwen Stacy, died at the hands of the Green Goblin. I had to go back and get that book. Well, I was like, that's amazing. And, you're a kid and you're reading this and going, that. Then they bring her back as a clone, and I'm like, and I'll be honest with you, that's when I stopped reading Spider-Man. Okay, I'm done. I'm sticking with werewolves, the zombie. I'm reading the Spirit now. I'm reading. I love Tales of the Zombie. I'm reading Creepy and Eerie.
Creepy and Eerie. I'm starting with issue 1. I think I'm up to like issue 15 or so of both.
And around that time, I discovered Richard Corbin, who I was hit and miss with his art, but I liked his stories.
Yes.
Then I got into heavy metal, and I'm done. Because if you bring her back as a clone, come on, dude.
I just want to point this out. We got Fabrizio Aiello in one of the viewers. He creates a comic called Horace H. Hoover on Alterna Comics. It's wonderful too.
Really?
Yeah. Alterna Comics is hitting it out of the park too. I'm a fanboy for Allegiance Arts. I'm a fanboy for Alterna Comics.
Awesome.
And then there's a whole bunch of other creators who just have like 1 or 2. But these, you guys are 2 studios or companies, whatever you call, and they make me excited to read comics again. And they're all the same thing. They're all guys who just like, there needs to be consequences, interesting characters. Good writing. Man.
I hope my hope is that you mentioned that you feel like this is a golden age, and I hope that.
Yes, I do. I honestly feel that.
I think there's a lot of opportunities for young talent, young creators to really express themselves and do stories that like maybe are a little risky, or risky in a good way. Like take a risk and make something really awesome. Like it's definitely possible, and this is a wonderful medium to do that in, especially if you're an artist who has a penchant for writing and maybe pals around with some writers, this is a space to create and play and get your ideas out there. It's a medium. I mentioned this earlier, that combines art and story, and if you use them proficiently and well, and that doesn't mean the stories have to be insanely complex or sophisticated, or that the artwork has to be like Butch Guys. You don't have to be Butch Guys, but this is a place for transformative. It's a transformative medium. You will take a reader and ignite their imagination. You give them beautiful art to look at. In a comic book can, like I said, it's a lot of the action is between the panels, right? It stimulates your mind in a very cool way. The characters, it's not quite a film where you're totally zombied out and can be zoned out and in this space.
Well,
there is
even not the most important thing. You respect the audience.
Very much.
You respect the audience. You're giving us quality. You got top-notch artists. You got top-notch writers. Your premises are outstanding. I think your characters are fun, and you trusted me personally enough to give me a jerk character that I absolutely hated, and within 7 pages, you won me over. You didn't spoon feed me a perfect character that no, we got to get him to like this guy. Although, you know what I mean. I think you're doing a good job of not treating me like a dummy.
Good. Well,
and I do think that the modern big 2, they don't like me anymore. I don't know whatever I did to them other than buy. At one point, I was spending $400 a month on freaking comic books, and they don't want me anymore. I can't help but take that personal.
Wow. You're not the only person I've met, or that I have friends that used to drop hundreds of dollars a week or a month on comic books, and longtime fans, and they've since walked away and they don't spend that money anymore. For us, there's like we do have some hard and fast like rules and things that we keep to in terms of our aesthetic and the way we like to tell stories. But good storytelling is universal, right? It doesn't. I haven't, like I said, we're kind of unplugged in terms of like contemporary comic books. We've heard things maybe aren't up to par, but good storytelling doesn't really change. Good fundamental storytelling does not change. So my hope is that if the bigger companies are dropping the ball on that, because it is a job. It's just, you have a job to entertain, and not just to entertain, but to, I think the job is a little more than that. Entertain is your number one job, but number two, there's sort of a magical power in the medium itself and in the artwork.
Well, you guys love it, I could tell.
We very much do.
You guys love comic books as a medium, and you respect comic books as a medium. I understand. Like I know I'm reading your minds over here. Maybe you have aspirations of film in the future, but that don't bother me because the product is excellent and it's suitable for film. But you're not just like, okay, this is my stepping stone. I'm gonna go here, and then what I really want to do is this. No, I get the feeling you guys you really want to make this. You really
actually, I went the other way.
Right, that's what I was just about to say that.
So,
you already did that. You've been there, done that.
But here's the thing: there's a lot of crossover, and we were on Graham's show a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, another phenomenal talent.
And one thing a lot of film guys don't understand: they are two different mediums.
Yes.
There's a lot of crossover, but there is a learning curve, and instead of, and this is maybe just my personality, I thought it was more important for me to adapt than force, myself onto this medium, which makes no freaking sense. I mean,
you did the right thing.
I don't know. But I understand why people want to do that. The inclination is there, but I think it's, you draw from things. That's what I mean about life. We draw from life. So for me to try and force something into another medium makes no sense when I have life experiences I can draw from to make the comics interesting. I don't need to go, we need to have this voiceover for 74 pages. And it's like, no, actually, we don't. We don't need a voiceover at all.
Sounds like you guys have a pretty strong editorial process. It sounds like you do a lot of rough drafts. You do a lot of rewrites before anything gets finalized.
One episode of Rooster was 20 drafts, 22 drafts, something outrageous. No lie. Yeah. I was frustrated. I'm not going to lie, man.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God. I was like, but here's the thing. You have to be brave enough to go, you have to be brave enough to go, you know what? This isn't working. Chuck this, chuck that. Let's go. And you got to trust, like Mitch was doing, he did some layouts for one of the issues of Rooster. And I freaking loved it. I'm like, oh my God, this could be so good. He didn't like it. I don't like this. And I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? It's so good. And I fought a little bit. Then he showed me what he had in mind afterwards. I'm like, yeah, you're right. It's better storytelling. And you got to be brave enough and you got to trust the person enough to put it out there like that. Because truth is, you come with your own filter. You have your own lens, so to speak. And you're not always right. And, sometimes, there's times, I'll be honest, I was stuck because I saw it one way and it didn't work. And episode 6 of the Saints, let's go back to that. We did something in episode 4 that worked. There was this montage between two locations and it came out beautifully. Actually, it didn't need a lot of massaging. Episode 6, I got a little ambitious and I tried to do it with 3 or 4 locations and it was so dull.
Okay.
It slowed everything down, whereas the other one sped everything up. So we went back, pulled everything out, and Mitch said, all right, this is what I think we should do. I said, okay, let's do it. And it worked better. And in the end, we cut and trimmed it and made it a much tighter. Again, I feel like I'm talking in circles because I can't tell you what happened.
Yeah, I know. When you try to avoid spoilers, you get a little... But
the point is, you've got to be brave enough to know when to chuck things.
Well, it also shows that,
and it's not easy.
I mean, you rewrite something 20 times because you want it to be good. You could have been like, that's good enough.
Well, that's not the attitude we take. There's no such thing as good enough.
It shows, and I appreciate it because before we started recording, I took these guys on a tour of my comic book room over here, so they saw that I got a few comics. And I read a bunch of comics, and I got excited about Allegiance Arts. You know, and I'm not lying, and I'm not shilling. I really do get excited about these comics. I want to know more. I like these characters. I like the artwork. I like the aesthetics. I like the company. Now I like you guys because I met you guys.
Aw.
But want to hang out. But you know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
you could
Let's
still
grab a slice somewhere.
Oh yeah. Come get some. You get good pizza down there in Florida. I'm not even going to ask Arkansas.
Well, we make good pizza at home. So
oh, good. I had my own pizzeria for a couple.
Yeah,
years.
I do homemade pizza, dude. I got family recipe. I'm not venturing out too often.
I got to a fist fight in Atlanta because I whispered to a guy, "This pizza's terrible," and the guy heard it over the counter and he hit me over the head with the pizza peel. I'm like, what? I was trying not to. I was like, I can't get arrested in Atlanta.
Oh, that would be a bad idea. Yeah.
But as I was saying, you got an old timer excited about comic books, and I don't know how many guys are full-time employees of Allegiance Arts. I don't know how many freelance.
It's a very small. It's a very small business. We're just trying to get these stories out to guys like you, to as many fans as possible, and we're not running around we're a comic book first group, but actually we're a great characters and great storytelling first is our thing.
Yeah, you could just pump out any comic book. Let's be realistic. But you guys have a nice little slate of comics.
My wife and I both have a pretty extensive history in comic books, and it's a medium in a industry that we both love, a medium especially. I can't forget where I was going with that, but
I wanted to ask you this: do you guys do fulfillment yourself, or do you have a fulfillment company?
No, we fulfill the books ourselves. Like I said, this is all mom and pop, except that. Well, where I was going with this was. We're making books for comic book fans. We understand the comic book medium and how to use it, but we're also unashamedly writing books for potentially millions of people. Like we're consciously crafting products, genre-spanning titles that we would hope would entertain millions of people. Right. I mean, that's the goal. And we're putting the kind of time and resources and energy and creativity into these books. So whether we're playing for a few hundred people, even if we're playing for a few hundred people, we've written it for, hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, I could see my dad sitting down and reading Red Rooster and really enjoying it.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Yes.
Yeah.
My dad liked Bass Reeves.
Yeah,
I showed him a couple of the floppies, and he's like, "Wow, this is cool." My dad loves westerns, so he's going to be into it. Yeah, my dad loves
westerns too. And Red Rooster has like an old-fashioned retro wonderful.
Absolutely. Frank is a man of his time. In many ways, as much as I love the Saints, I have a very special soft spot in my heart for Frank Cooper because I love the WPA art and the stories of John Steinbeck and that whole 1930s. I'm a sucker for that. He seems the most
American ideal out of all the characters. He seems like a good, solid American. In the best sense of the word.
No, Frank Cooper.
Yes.
And that's actually part of the tragic. I mean, you've read all of the first volume, the first 3 episodes, right? So, it's where he picks up. Then he's a pariah. And the contextualizing that for a hero who was so beloved is part of the process and part of the journey that the reader has to go on with.
Yeah, it's a good story. I'm a sucker for that, because he's a good guy,
Yes, and he has to go through a real dark valley.
I feel for him. I'm like, come on, man.
Yeah, it's really kind of, it's got some gut punches in it for both him and Strong Boy and the entire cast, and it doesn't stop at the end of volume 1. Like, it actually gets kind of to be a darker story, a bit of a smaller story in a lot of ways. Like, it's less grandiose in what we're planning for the second volume, and Nick and I have created.
And Midnight.
Yes.
I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm a little angry with you guys.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, page 1 of Red Rooster, and I'm not going to spoil anything. Page 1 and 2 kind of let you know what the ride you were in for. Like,
yeah.
You know, that's this. We're going places with this character, and it's not always going to be easy, but we are going to have some fun along the way. And
Yep. Well, I would be emotional if it wasn't good.
That says a lot. That says a lot, John. We appreciate that.
Yes, very much so. I've said this a couple times already, but I feel like you're the customer we're trying to win on this.
Thank you.
The guy who is getting every book, or not getting it, like you're getting it. You're getting what we went for. The emotions are connecting from the Red Rooster book. Like it's the
I keep showing this one because this is the one that's the mystery to me. I'm having a fun time trying to figure out where you're going.
It took me a while to get into the book, and I know that sounds harsh because I work for the company, but I wasn't grasping it as much. And once I started to read the scripts as we went into production for each issue, something happened where I went, I get it now.
Yeah,
it was like you Rudyard Kipling on acid, but not.
Yeah,
it is and it's not.
I'm gonna steal that. Rudyard Kipling on acid. That
totally.
That's a pretty good explanation. Yeah.
We've also, another thing we use to describe that book was it's Apocalypse Now meets Peter Pan, and that is
okay.
Kind of the two mashups that happened in this book to craft it. It's the story is a little bit inspired by Apocalypse Now in terms of this venture into the.
I can see that
they're on the quest for Shambhala. Like, that's not a secret. That is what the book is about.
Yeah,
these different characters that are seeking it for the power of this ancient the mysteries of this ancient city or hidden city for their own purposes. And the story is a monkey's paw story. We're all familiar with the monkey's paw short story. Yeah. It's the quest for what you want, manifesting in ways that are less desirable than you anticipated, or story about curses and cursed characters and the links that they go to for power or to or whatever it may be. And in the midst of all this is a story about a family who's been separated by war and is desperate, a father who's desperate to clear his name, who's been labeled a traitor and desperate to bring his family back together, and he has a hell of a time doing it. And it's fun. It's a world of magic, but a world where magic has consequences and really drastic ones. So, like I said, they're on the quest for Shambhala. So we're not, it's not a mundane
no
kind of thing. It's a
I'm really curious where you're going with this one. That to me I can't figure out at all, but I'm enjoying it. I not that I could figure out, because I have no idea where you're going with the Saints either, but I kind of have in my mind I'm building up I'm trying to beat you at your own game, and I think maybe I whatever. But futurists, I'm not even trying because I have no idea where you're going, but I want to know. I think it's a good story. They're all good. No, I keep talking about Norse Saga. Like it was because there's one I just read last night. I just think it's phenomenal. And again, I can't stress that I appreciate that you make it all ages comics. I think it's something that'll, especially a lot of these Kickstarter people are forgetting that you need comics. I'm 54 years old. We got to get like teenagers into reading comics again.
Well, I think we need, guys like you are very important. People that back crowdfunds are extremely important.
Yeah, I got disposable cash.
Advocates for the power of comics is also very important. I've been a comic book fan for a long time, since like 12 or so, but I wasn't not a huge fan like you are in terms of collecting, right? I was inspired by the art and the stories and wanted to use that as an artist and as a writer to manifest this art. And if we want to attract the next generation of creators, right, to to use this medium in a powerful way, to be encouraged to not only develop their artistic talent, but their writing talent, so that we can continue to get great stories. We need guys like you, John, and guys and gals that are backing crowdfunded books, that are letting creators do this, that are hopefully, like Nick and I think we're trying to set a bar with Allegiance that's as high as we can lift it, when we're standing on the shoulders of giants ourselves. So we're just trying to lift that bar as high as we can.
Your comics are some of the highest quality comics out there. I'm not, I always talk about the binding, like Alterna Comics. To me, I love the binding. I love the printing process, so I talk about that as quality too. But I'm saying your comics are like, I think the highest quality as far as your editorial content. You get, when you're reading these, that you guys have went over this with a fine sandpaper, and you polished it up. I'm really impressed.
Yeah, Kathleen, who builds the books, 4 of us go over those books before we put them out and make sure, especially in the graphic novel, is there anything out of place? Is the back matter correct? I mean,
oh, you're talking about the actual physical printing of the books.
We go through everything with a fine-tooth comb.
That must be so heartbreaking to print it, and then you find out that something was the staples.
There's always something. There
is always something.
People never notice, but there's always something that's gonna stick with me forever. Like, oh, that font was not the right size or something. But no one will ever know. Hopefully,
but
right?
We'll
know.
But I'll know, but that's okay, right? I mean, this is nothing's
we take
ever
pride in the work, so
it shows, and that was the highest praise when I said it reminds me of European comics, because I don't know how many people who watch my channel know, like, these European comics. They're like, one artist, and he'll be a writer and artist, he'll spend like a whole year making a big oversized book, one big story with phenomenal art, because he takes the time to make. And your comics remind me of that, and that's a compliment. It's
wow.
I don't, it's a different approach to the medium, right? It's less churn and burn. Like, if you're doing stuff, the Superman that has to come out once a month. It's
right. Yeah, that was the way the business model was back on the newsstand.
Right.
That had to be done, and those guys were phenomenal talents to do that. Like what Kirby was putting out 3 monthlies a month, amazing. And I don't know if people could do that these days, but I don't mind waiting. And I think
that's
most
the
people
thing.
who do Kickstarter.
That's what I mean. That's the way I would like to see this art form move, this medium move, is where creators can take a little bit more time, where we can have a direct connection with like the fan base who's really engaged, as we're kind of doing a boutique thing, right? It's it's artisanal. Right.
I don't mind waiting.
Or artisan comics in a lot of ways, right? And I think that is. It's very different from Marvel, so it's kind of hard to compare the two.
Right, it's apples and oranges, yeah.
It's in some ways, right? It's like a difference between like putting together like a reality show versus a Coppola film, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's Steak and White Castle.
Yeah. So,
yeah, very much.
But as a creator, this is what we're trying to do with books like The Saints. We do have to make some compromises. You can't spend forever on something. You can't polish it until it's absolutely like,
At some point, you got to pull the trigger.
At some point, you do have to get your book out there and make. But in order, I think, to really maximize the medium and the real estate involved in it, you have to be really smart, and you have to apply a lot of craftsmanship and work around the story process. There has to be, that takes time, right? And the artist, Christian is a very fast artist, like phenomenally fast.
Oh, okay.
But other artists are not quite as fast, like Butch, and you have to give them, the time and space they need to do their thing.
Like, do you look at this, like, would you read this now and be like, oh man, I wouldn't have done that, or I wish I had time to fix this, or, oh man, I had a better idea? Do you torture yourself like that?
With Red Rooster, no.
I just picked up Red Rooster, but any of your works.
Yes, there's always a few little things. Like, there's things that you wish you might have had a little more time with or whatnot. But I'm fundamentally universally proud of everything that we've done.
And you guys should be. You should be.
There's little. We were doing a whole read through of the Futurists a while back, Nick and I, just a few weeks ago, and we caught some things that were just like, oh, if we had it to do over again, we would do this one just a little bit differently, or we could have had some more efficient storytelling here or there. If I, like I said, I could nitpick this all day. Like, I think we could have squeezed a little more into Bass Reeves, but it's just a little, right? It's like, how much more toothpaste could we squeeze out of this thing? Like, they're good books. It's always one of the things that nags at me, because it's like, I'm sort of mostly unaware of what my contemporaries are doing, right? I just want to make the best possible books that I can make, and that our company can make, and our freelance talent that we're working with can make, as we can. And so when I get them done at the end of it, I'm like, Nick, is it good? Nick, we hit the end. Does this hold up to you? And then we'll go to Kathleen, our girl that puts the campaigns together and does our marketing. You have to read this, Kathleen, because she's a huge comic book fan.
Oh, good.
You have to, now you read it. And then we go to a couple more people down the line, because it's like, I think we did something very good here.
Yeah, you're doing a good job. Yeah.
But there's always, for us, that doubt. But
you should always ask. You need to ask. Did we nail it? You'll hear this a lot. If you heard us working together, it's like, does this land? Am I like high? What am I?
Yeah.
And because sometimes you are too close to it.
Sometimes you can't be, but so far we haven't been. So far, we put the end on something. When we write the end and we say it's final draft, we're proud of it. We're like, okay. Well,
how cool is that? To have your comics in your hand. That's got to be a cool feeling.
It's a very cool feeling.
It's one of those things that's a kind of a lifetime achievement thing for me, especially. Was like, I want to make my own books. I want to work with some really great collaborators and do some leave behind some artwork and not just artwork, but leave behind something that's really special. That was the full manifestation of everything that myself, my wife, and our collaborators could produce with the tools that we had available at the time. And that's what
I think you're doing a good job. I really am. I'm a fanboy, and I want to see what's coming out in the future. And believe me, I want to see what's going on in all these comics. I can't wait to see the conclusions. Well, and at that, I gotta go to bed. I wake up before the
Oh, okay. Because I saw a couple of comments, and I wouldn't mind addressing them.
Okay, good.
Take a look.
Any comments?
I want to talk about this Aloise Adrift person, because
he left. Okay,
I don't know who this is.
Neither do I.
Are they there or no?
I can't tell if they're still in the chat or not. But here's the comment, and then here's the second comment.
Okay.
Good.
Mitch would be a lot more polite about this than I'm gonna be. Here's the deal.
I have no idea what's going on.
And you're right. Here's the deal. There's a group of people out there have been smearing our name for a while now. And they got their panties in a bunch because floppies hit the stands before the graphic novel came out.
Oh, okay.
And I'm new to the business. From what I understand, that's usually how it works. And an offer was made, and Allegiance got into Walmart.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
And a bunch of jealous people got pissy and moany and started trashing things because they didn't get in. That's how I view it. Now, not everyone may feel this way, but these kind of comments, I'm up to hear about.
Oh,
every one of our books have been on time. There's only one that hasn't been, and that's because the artist had issues. We've delivered every book. We didn't take 4 years or 3 years to deliver a book. We got a book done when we said it was going to get done, and it got in the person's hands. So when I see comments like this, I get kind of pissy.
Oh.
Because I know the people that are complaining about us and are taking years to get their books out. So I'm
that's
sorry
one
to
of the
take
things
this in
I'll,
this direction, but when I see this crap, I go,
yeah.
you know what? Enough's enough, man.
I will say that one of the biggest weaknesses I've seen with crowdfunding, not you guys, but is some people are taking too long in between issues, or, too long to make a comic or whatever. But I don't know. I'm naive. I just like my comics, and I don't mind waiting. I know I'm not telling tales out of school. When Lady Alchemy had some problems, Martina Marcota,
Oh,
and
it's
she had to fire her artist and restart all over again, and people were jumping down it, and I, she didn't know me from a hole in the wall, and I just said, take your time, make the comic. I not to belittle anybody, but it's just a comic. I'll live. I got comics. I'd rather have a good comic book a little bit later than a piece of crap first.
Just to address the specific comment, there's a long running narrative around myself as a creator and our books as a company that we don't put backers first, which is
okay.
A lie.
So it's an absolute.
Okay, I get it now. I didn't know any of this.
Absolute nonsense. We have crawled across glass and hot coals to make the best possible books for backers, for customers, for readers, as we can.
Okay, I'm figuring out what's going on. All right,
so that's just a long. It's
up to here.
It's it's just detractors.
Okay, so
and so my question is, did you back Red Rooster, or you just have a little snit on someone's?
So Red Rooster.
And if you did back Red Rooster, you would know in the back of the book there was an explanation that Mitch had printed out that he carefully crafted to explain to the backers about the Walmart deal. You know who I find complain? The people who didn't buy the frickin' book and didn't read the back of the book.
Yeah.
So they have no frame of reference. And you can tell I'm getting hot about this.
Yeah.
The one thing I can't stand is a putrid stench of lying.
Did you follow Eric July at all?
Not really.
We know who he is, but we don't follow him.
Well,
I mean, I know who he is.
Comic, and now people are attacking him, and they never even read the comic. They're talking, you know what I mean? I read the comic, I don't see what these people are saying, but I don't know. I think that comes to like jealousy, whatever. People are loyal to
there's
other
something.
people.
So,
but I
so
feel
Don, let me just make the statement in general. Good. I'm going to make a very general statement just about the health, because we need guys like people that are passionate about crowdfunding to continue creating comic books. But for whatever reason, and I'm not like a super comic book guy, but maybe it's just a matter of whatever. There's so much drama associated with comic books and creator conflicts, and
I don't understand it.
Artists are good. Like, look, if this is what comic books is drama and having to deal with people throwing labels on you and attackers coming from all sides and our jealous peers or envious startups trying to claw you down. The creators are not going to waste. They're not going to be here. The talent will go somewhere else and do something else. And this will be a very small medium with a very small, set of hobbyists because most of them will leave because it's become not fun. And
that's what I said. I want you guys to sell 1 million copies. I want you guys to get rich.
That's how we feel.
And I want
it only make my life better.
That's how we feel about our competitors. Like,
right.
Good.
I want DC
to
sell 1 million copies because I got friends that own comic book stores.
Yeah.
And the fact that X-Men can't sell its way out of a paper bag, if that's a terrible analogy, it only hurts a couple of my buddies. It's no skin off my nose if I'm trying to think of a comic that I don't particularly like. Squirrel Girl I didn't particularly like, but I wanted it to sell. There's a truck driver that drives that truck. I'm a construction worker. I'm thinking about all the logistics. I don't understand the drama. I don't get it. But you know what it means? It means you made it. Once you got the haters, I'm trying to get the first.
That's true. That's certainly a
that's what I knew Eric July
look at it.
You could tell that this is a sore spot, but because we've kept quiet for so long, and now I'm like, you know what? I'm tired of the little.
Yeah, Nick has had it.
Yeah, well, I didn't know.
I'm tired of the whiny little hens coming out in little hen parties. and making these comments, and you know
Yeah.
damn well they didn't buy the book. All they're doing is repeating the smut.
Yeah.
Right, and it's
I can't wait till I get people who hate John
so
Blum telling
if
me
you
don't.
have detractors that are going out and trying to get tons of people not to trust you, then you're basically what I just don't understand the idea of trying to make it difficult for people to make comic books. Like this is a small space, like we could make it a huge space, right?
Right.
If
And who gets hurt by that? Nobody.
yes,
Right?
by making it a huge space,
Right, make it a
by
big-
being positive and encouraging for this entire art form and medium, you will attract more talent. You'll
Right.
get better books.
Look at
There'll
the
be
boom,
more money that
black and
moves
white
into
boom in
this
the 80s.
business, and that will manifest even more great books. We have a wonderful opportunity, and we have wonderful tools at our disposal to do it. And there's amazing talent out there. I would just love to see this be a really a much more positive space. In a lot of ways.
So this person commented, I hope I'm pronouncing, Adrift commented, if you want to go ahead. They actually, if you want to put it up
okay.
there.
Realize, yeah, another
Yeah.
comment. Okay, there you go.
Cool. We do put the backers first. The lie has been we don't. And I think that's where, and I didn't mean this directed towards you, but when I kind of blew it a
she's
minute
addressing
ago,
the narrative. I think
I'm addressing the narrative, not you personally.
Correct.
Because we've heard this and it makes no sense to us. It's like, what do you mean?
Yeah, we've delivered books and we've delivered amazing books. And
I got everything I paid for. I'm happy with the quality.
Yeah.
Yeah, we always ante up. I mean, God, you know, if as you could tell, John, it's been a little frustrating.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And I'm sorry for taking your wonderful podcast in this direction. I just think it had to be addressed, and enough's enough.
You know, well, I'm again. Maybe I'm naive. Maybe I'm in my own little rosy world over here. But I didn't know that there was any drama. So this is kind of coming out a little.
It's well,
you are blessed,
and I'm putting little bits and pieces. I think I know what people are talking about. Some people were pissed off because the Walmart had comics before the backers, right? Is that?
Yeah, a few months before, right? The issue is that I had to complete the whole graphic novel project.
Multi-corporation. You gotta jump through hoops when you know.
So let me just clear
bosses.
And they didn't even get the same book. It's two different things.
Right.
Sorry.
Nick, so let me just give a little bit of context for people that don't know and may watch this later around the Walmart thing. So I launched Red Rooster, I believe it was on July 4th.
Yeah, I got both.
In 2018 as a campaign with just concept art and my storyline pitch, right? So I had to create it all from scratch based on a really in-depth pitch, and we had a treatment and everything else, but just it was a crowdfund of the truest sense. Hey, we're going to try this thing. Here's the presentation. Here's the character. Here's the world. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to need time to make it because I don't have any pages. We launched this book, raised $50,000 on day one. And that shattered our world, my wife and I, Elizabeth and myself, because we launched this campaign. So it opened up some doors like almost immediately. Within like the next couple of days, I started getting some very interesting phone calls. And within 3 months, my wife and I were in front of the books buyer at Walmart, pitching them on a startup comic book company. That's 3 months after July when we launched that campaign. And a month after that, they said yes. And then once that happened, we spent a year drawing Red Rooster, creating 3 other titles from scratch, including Bass Reeves, Nora's Saga, and The Futurists, and putting the teams together for all these things. That process of doing that delayed Red Rooster. Took me a while to draw it as well as to build the company. I tried to keep backers updated as best as I could. And I had the choice. I could have rushed Red Rooster, John. I did not want to rush Red Rooster. Red Rooster was it's a very important book to me and to Allegiance as a whole. And we had a very special storyline in mind for this world and a very, thoughtful universe for this. And we wanted to give I'm really hurt when people say that we don't put backers first. I like I said, I crawled through glass for that book. I wanted to make it an
Wonderful
absolutely outstanding presentation for the backers. I did not want to rush it. I did not want to give them a crummy, crappy, thoughtless book. That book has heart and soul. It's got the best art I could produce at the time. It has my wife's wonderful colors that are just beautiful. So I'm extremely proud of the book.
You should be.
We worked very hard to deliver something great for backers. It took a little extra time. I think most backers believe that time was worth it. And I certainly, and if you did back the book, you got an apology for the lateness of the product and an explanation of the events that transpired that led to its delays. But also the delays gave me some time. I actually make the book was better. The book.
Let me ask you this: was it your first book?
What's that?
It was Allegiance Art's first book too, right?
First book. It was our first book and our flagship character.
Yeah, right. I'm not saying you made a mistake. I'm not saying it because again,
we always make mistakes.
But
we always make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes.
Book, guys, come on. So we learn. We move on. And if people want to be bitchy, then I and again, I'm not trying to insult anybody who's watching my live stream. I'm the people. I don't know. You respect the fans and everything like that, but still, you could be handing out $100 bills to people, and then some people are gonna be like, only 100.
Yes.
I'm a construction worker. We always joke around like some days we got to go home with pay because of the conditions. Yeah. And then guys will be like, couldn't they have called us and I didn't have to come to work? I'm like, geez, you can't please people.
Yes. Oh, I agree. And John, I love that you self-admittededly live in a bit of a bubble. I do too. It's part of my creative process, right? I mean, I have my world and I live in it, and it's very unplugged from drama. Like
around 2005, man, I was all on message boards and arguing with people and fighting with people, and then I was snapping at my poor wife who had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
We get off. We stay like we don't do politics for a reason. Right. Actually, it's funny. I talked to Kevin Grevious today. Kevin and I talk a lot, and we kept it short. Normally we're 4-hour guys, and that 4 hours goes quick. Talk about a lot of things, our faith, and one of the things that constantly comes up is the maliciousness that we see online, and it's hard. You really have to work to buffer yourself away from it and just to stay away.
My wife is actively avoiding social media right now. Not to get like too serious, but Corona really did a number on my wife, and she's like, you know what? I'm done with this social media. I'm done fighting with people. People just got nasty. We moved away from the city because people were getting weird. I joked that I moved out to the country. I moved out to Suffolk. Nick probably knows where you're from around here, and I got
West Islip, baby.
Oh, okay. I'm right by you.
Don't dox yourself.
Yeah, but I'm right near you. That's where you grew up, West Islip. Yeah, I was
just born. Good Sam Hospital, man.
And I gotta say, like, I got away from people. I'm in a little bubble here. I'm in my basement. I can blast my music. I talk to people that I want to talk to. I talk to people like you. I read more comic books. This I said it 2 or 3 times in this chat. This is a golden age of comic books. And if people want to focus on hiccups or burps or whatever, then that's on them. Because these comic books are wonderful. And I said it before, I was a fanboy of your company. And I still am a fanboy. You give me no reason not to be a fanboy. Fanboy being sight unseen, I'm getting Allegiance Arts. That right now I get anything by you. I get anything by Alterna. I get anything by Albatross, the Eric Powell's The Goon comic. I don't know if you're.
Oh yeah.
No, I gotta go check him out.
That is so good. I'll get anything. Stan Sakai. I get this people that I follow, and I'm happier than I've ever been. It's a golden age. And you're crazy to focus on stuff that gets you mad in this day and age. Is the real world bad enough?
I agree. Life is so short. I love your attitude, John, and I appreciate it so much.
Because I used to be like that, and I was miserable. I made a conscious decision one day to be happy.
And
beautiful. Yeah, I think that's why it's so like we are disengaged, and then when because someone will come back to you and go, dude, this is happening, and then you're like,
and it's easy to fight with somebody online because they're not a person; they're just a handle.
It's just a handle and an avatar or whatever, and
they're keyboard warriors.
But
man.
life is sweet.
Somebody put me up on Twitter today, and I snapped at him, and I was like, "Oh, dude, I read that wrong. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." You know what I mean? So I'm not perfect either.
Yeah, life is sweet. People make mistakes.
Right.
We all have the capacity for
making great comics. You know, you're making absolutely great comics. I'd say these are some of the best comics I've read in my life. You know, and that's saying a lot from a guy who, you know, has been collecting his whole life. I will. Anybody who watches my channel, I will say, Allegiance Arts. These comics that I showed. The only one I didn't read yet is Bass Reeve. I just don't know how I missed that one, but that I ordered it. It's coming tomorrow.
You've got to.
You know,
I don't sleep on the graphic novel, John. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I got the hardcover graphic novel.
Okay, great.
All you got the Andy,
best of everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dave just knocked it out of the park, man. That's the best way to say it. He just boom.
I'm a history guy. I have a degree in history, and I got to say, I didn't know Bass Reeves was a real person until you guys had the comic.
I never heard of him either until I started working for these guys.
You know?
No clue.
You know, so and I grew up watching westerns with my dad, but I guess that's, you know, a little bit, you know, I don't know, John Wayne stuff. You're not gonna.
Well, then it should really. I think you'll really enjoy it, Kevin.
I know I will.
David, it's just a wonderful. It's a beautiful book. I've called it
beautiful
in the past a mighty work, and
yes,
I really mean that. It is the art looks like the whole thing feels like it's carved in stone.
Oh,
right.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you that kind of impression. Bass. It's not a historical biopic, even though he was a real person. It's inspired by and true to the spirit of the real Bass. But what we tell is kind of an Odyssean, kind of mythic story that has a lot of heart in it, and that's very. It's kind of in many ways about Bass's family as much as else.
Really. I straight up, I tell people I got misty eyed because there are moments of poetry in this that just
the
beautifully
also sandwiching that between just killer action, and that's really what we wanted to do with this book, is tell a very weighty, emotive story that honors the actual, you know, man, Bass Reeves, but then just make it. And then David's art really does this more than anything. Just a really, it's almost like pop art in sometimes. I mean, he takes a Western and really just bends it and transforms it into this very wild and unique art style. And it's a way of taking a genre, the Western, which can be a little sometimes predictable, you know, in terms of art styles and shot choosing.
You gotta have to make a Western that people
and
are
making. Yeah, he like takes a Western and makes it like it's like a John Ford meets graffiti art or something. It's
cool.
Wild.
Cool. All right.
Well, John, thank you so much.
Yeah,
thank you, John. We're keeping you up, and I'm sorry again. Yeah. I apologize for hijacking.
That's fine. That's fine. I love talking to you guys. I in a perfect world, I'd talk to you for another 3 hours, but unfortunately, 9:30 is my bedtime, and I got to go up and have dinner. Otherwise, I would talk to you for another hour. I really enjoyed it.
Well, same here. It's a treat.
You want to come back, please. You know, it was fun. I could talk to you all night long.
Well, I certainly.
There's stuff I didn't even get to talk about.
Well, we'll have to do it again sometime.
Oh, please,
in the future.
Please.
We've definitely enjoyed this. We referenced your first review of the Saints many times on other channels, so I hope it's collected some new viewers, because we loved. Again, I'll just say it again, that you were very honest and straightforward and sincere, but also spoke with expertise. And I encourage people to go back and watch that, you know, kind of raw, honest review that you gave.
I'll put my own link in this when I publish it up. You know,
and we just appreciate your perspective on
comics. I appreciate your comics. I think they're wonderful comics. I really am, and I'm not. You know, well, my viewers know me. They know that I'm pretty harsh on a couple of comics because they deserved it. But you guys are wonderful comics. You know, I'm going to repeat myself if I keep talking.
Thank
Awesome.
you, John.
So thank you.
But
You're the
thank
man.
you guys for coming down.
Thank you, audience.
You want to close out with? Because
just go back to Saints. Hit the link.
Yep.
You won't regret it. This is an amazing artistic talent in Christian Rosado. You're catching him on the liftoff. Like, he's going to be a massive talent. He is just now entering the American market after breaking out in Peru. So buy it for the art alone, and it's worth it. And then on top of it, you're getting a very well crafted story.
yeah, good story. Hit all my buttons. Everything I like.
Yeah, for $30 you can get volumes 1 and 2.
Definitely.
And volume 2 is the reprint, which has a whole new alternate cover.
Okay.
Great cover.
Okay. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for coming down. You know, Allegiance Arts hitting it out of the park. Really good comics, and I'm pleased as punch with everything you guys did. I don't know what else to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
and
you.
Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.